If you can find a couple that you walk with before you get married, that's gonna be more valuable than actually sitting down for the 8 weeks or 5 weeks or however the marriage prep is, right? I'm not saying marriage prep is bad. It's not bad at all, right? But I always say that marriage prep is actually just good for you as a couple to come to a point of answering this one question: do we still want to get married or not?
Yes. One of the things that the pressure which is negative that comes with that is to say is you are told that a good leader does not do this.
Sure.
So you're working from the negative.
Yes.
So you're always you're trying to make it from the negative.
You're trying to avoid.
So you're trying to pay back sins for other men that you don't even know that you've never seen.
Yes. Hey, what's up? Welcome to That Husband Podcast with me, Black Newborn. Here we are husbands who aren't where we want to be, but certainly are not where we used to be. We are imperfect, always failing forward, trying to know better so that we can do better. Hey, what's up? Welcome to That Husband Podcast with me, Black Newborn. This is where husbands try to know better so that we can do better. This is part 2 of our conversation with Privilege. If you haven't checked out part 1, stop this right now. Go check out part 1. There's a lot of dope gems in there, dope stories, a lot of humor. You'll find value in that episode. Pull through again then for part 2. If you've seen part 1, shout outs to you. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for your feedback. You're going to really enjoy this one. We're diving even deeper in the conversation of what it looks like to be a husband who tries to know better so that he can do better. Right? What we're going to see now is Priv just, again, telling us the 2 husbands that inspired him to get married, as we include those names in our book, right? So stick around, you're going to see that. But at the end of this, don't forget to leave a comment, share, subscribe if you haven't, hit that notification bell if you haven't, so that you can be updated on all the episodes that we're going to put out, so you don't miss out on any of the value that's coming out of That Husband Podcast, right? See you on the flip side of this. Peace.
There's Gift Fukani.
Yep.
So this one was a legend.
Yeah.
So he was one of my close friends, and like he's married or way older than me, but we were in class together. We studied together, and I became part and parcel of the family when we were studying together. And they allowed me to see what true conflict is and how to resolve conflict.
Sure.
They never pretended. I pretended to be their marriage counselor. But I didn't know that actually in that I was learning. I was actually learning to see how can you actually conflict together and actually be happy. It used to surprise me. They'll have a nasty fight, right? And I'm in the middle trying to make sure that, hey, your words, be careful tomorrow. Hey, I'm saying Gift, we wanted to cook for us tomorrow. So it's difficult for me to come
don't
back.
Don't mess my plate, bro.
Yeah, don't mess my plate, bro. But it was surprising to me that we could end in a knot like it's tough, it's bad. And I'm like, the whole night I was spent like thinking, what happened last night? You walk in the next day, bro. They are hugging each other. They're cooking together. Then I'm like, oh no, guys, what are you doing? But in that, bro, I actually realize that conflict is not necessarily a bad thing.
No.
It's actually a process that allows us to grow and expose ourselves to it. Actually, the fact that we are willing to have a conflict, it means we care for each other, and we want us to be honest and to be brutal. You talk about brutal honesty.
Sure.
You want to be brutally honest with each other.
Sure.
And so I think they taught me that, and I really, really appreciated that. And not forgetting David.
Sure.
Yeah, David could be.
That's a bad choice.
But I know. But I had to sneak him there, bro. Yeah.
His head is so big. When you wrote his name, he took up the whole page.
I saw, bro. Like it's almost half the page. But I don't have to say that because he hasn't submitted my marriage to Home Affairs. You might tear it up and everything.
So be careful.
Yes, I have to be careful. But you know what? Like I think the most beautiful thing about like David, he was our marriage officer. He's the one who married us, and he said to us the very first day. I remember we were sitting in my wife's office, and he said, look, when we asked him, and I think he didn't expect us to ask him to do that, and he was shocked. I think he shocked. I could see that he was taken aback. But then he quickly said, look, guys, if we're gonna do this, yes, there's some sessions that we might need to do in the office and stuff, but I found it very, very helpful for us to do it in my family home, so that you just come and plug in my routine. We don't have to change anything.
Sure.
If we're having conversation in bedtime, we pause our conversation, take the keys to bed, and if we need to continue the conversation. So I think him opening his home together with his wife to see them in conversation.
Still, bro.
And even on the counseling thing, bro, like they would have conversations with each other and like, no, bro, no,
in front of you guys.
Yeah, in front of us. And
That's
I'm
dope.
like, that's so dope. And they'll laugh about it. Like this one says another memory. This one, no, I don't remember like that. Like so, but it was beautiful. It was in seeing that, like, actually, this thing actually is life. It's not a movie. It's life. It's actual life. It's actually people finding the beauty of life in the messiness of life. And I think it just helps a little bit. Because if you look in the world that we're living in, even the books of marriage in the Christian world that are written, like, not many of them actually talk about the messiness of this business.
There's one book that's scary.
Yeah.
What Did You Expect? By Paul Tripp.
Yeah.
Yo, I read that thing. I think it was second or first year of marriage with my wife. We read, I think, not even a half of the first chapter or the intro.
Yeah.
It was probably like a quarter or something. And we looked at each other and said, listen, if we're going to survive marriage, let's close this book.
Let's pause for a while.
But
you know the interesting thing about that book and course.
Yeah.
So I was studying in Cape Town at the church. The church I was part of, I was an elder.
Yeah.
So like I ended up becoming a discipleship elder. So it's part of the courses. So it's one of the things that they run at the church. It's like, it's good for you to learn about this. So they didn't just do it for married couples. They say if you in the face like you're serious about marriage, you can do it.
I actually do think like a lot of single people should read that book.
Yes.
Because from the title, what did you expect? Right? So it sobers a lot of your realities, or at least your assumptions, your dreams, your own thoughts of what marriage is going to be.
Yes.
And I think for us, that reality was just too scary to actually, because what the book does, it doesn't tell you to point fingers at your spouse.
Yes.
It forces you to dig deep at your own heart, bro.
You are the problem.
Yeah.
I am the problem.
So then I was like, I don't think we're both ready to.
It's too deep for us. It's too difficult. Yeah. But I think, you know what? I actually am rooting. Like, maybe what we can do, or challenging you to do, I might remove myself from the equation. Yeah. But actually, a supplement to that book, what do you expect? Instead of what did you expect, what do you expect?
Sure.
And then I think it will complement. It will complement actually, because I think what kills most of these things, bro, is actual expectations.
Yep. Unrealistic, uncommunicated expectations. Yep. They'll
And
destroy.
you know the funny bit about the expectations that build with what you're exposed to in a day-to-day life.
Exactly.
And you build expectations of the ideal wife that you want to have, the ideal husband that you want to have. And actually, I don't know if it was you I was listening that you had to divorce the wife in your head so that you can relate with this person. Yeah. And I'm like, so I'm only married 3 months. And I'm actually realizing like, oh my goodness me. There's this beautiful person, like this amazing, sinless person, very perfect, that I was building in my own head.
And the thing about that person is that she's always listening to your brilliant ideas.
Yes.
And she's always saying yes to your brilliant ideas. She never fights you because you're never wrong. And she doesn't have her own thoughts, her own dreams, her own ambitions, her own goals, her own background, her own upbringing. All of that she's going to forsake.
Exactly. Very submissive.
For yours.
The godly wife.
Yes.
Hallelujah.
Yes.
Hey, bro. Hey.
And then you're like, what's this that I married though?
Who is this one next to me?
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And actually, it breeds unending conflict if you don't wake up to that reality.
Totally.
To actually, God, I'm
bro.
You know, going to Paul Tripp's words, like, I am the problem.
Yep.
I'm a sinful person. I've made terrible mistakes. And God has put me in front of another person so that together we can grow. I need to be present with this person. And I need to divorce this wife I'm carrying in my head, who is overly submissive, who is this perfect wife. But like I think it's the realization of that helps build and actually adjust the expectations of marriage and actually start to enjoy your imperfectness, because you understand that none of you are perfect. Apart from Christ, and until the day Jesus comes back, none of us will never be perfect. So we are growing to change. Yeah.
That's dope, man. Thanks, man. So those husbands are in this book. Those dudes inspired you, and we pray that these dudes will also inspire other people who will eventually get the complete copy of this thing. And it's going to be a gift from us to many people, and we're hoping, again, to change one marriage at a time. And one marriage will change one family will change one society, and hopefully then the country and the continent change, right? But I think, to piggyback on what you were saying, that's in fact for me one of the best ways to do marriage counseling, to live with people, right? To be in their home. I remember our mentors who did marriage prep with us. We actually had one session out of the 8. Right, and the one session was literally, I think, a week before our wedding. We all woke up, we're like, hey, we need to do marriage prep, right? And I think we're trying to jam everything in that 1 week. But as we were sitting and talking about this one session we're having, like, I think it just dawned on both me and my mentor at that point that I've been in your house for a year. So you've been preparing me for marriage. I saw you with your wife. I saw you, preparing dinner with her. I saw you arguing about the children. So I was in the car with you when you were calling her and talking about money. I saw you guys going on holiday and resting. I saw you handling babysitters. I saw you having your own personal struggles and her supporting you, and then finding out that she's with my wife, she has her own personal struggles, and then you supporting her, And for me, that was the best, bro. I'm like, if you can find a couple that you walk with before you get married, that's going to be more valuable than actually sitting down for the 8 weeks or 5 weeks or however the marriage prep is, right? I'm not saying marriage prep is bad. It's not bad at all, right? But I always say that marriage prep is actually just good for you as a couple to come to a point of answering this one question. Do we still want to get married or not?
Yes.
That's it. Right? Does it prep you for marriage? I don't think so.
This is exactly, I remember. So this is what happened. So David, we did a couple of sessions. But David did warn us to say, guys, I invest more in the post wedding counseling as we. So he was like, I don't want to call it counseling where we're building life together. So we're gonna be in each other's lives and doing all these things. I'm investing. So I'm just wanting to expose you to what you're about to get to. So we did all those things. We remember faithfully we did.
Sure.
Even going to the park, reading the things and discussing and stuff and all.
Sure.
Our wedding day comes, you're wedding, like, you're happy. Hey, brah. First month. It was child. I remember one Sunday. I'm walking, I'm coming back. I'm at CCM. It's child. And I'm realizing I'm failing. So the thing with me is I'm failing my wife.
This is 1 month in.
I think it was even not 1 month in. Weeks in. I'm like, I don't think I was prepared for this. I'm failing my wife. I'm actually becoming a problem to my wife. And I'm not the husband that I'm supposed to. I remember walking to David. I was carrying this burden, this heavy load on my shoulder that I felt. I don't think this is what other husbands are doing. I didn't know, bro, I still don't know what I'm doing, but at that time it was bleak. I didn't know what I'm supposed to be doing.
Crazy,
to the point that I could think about, I want to make coffee for my wife, but then in the process, will I make it perfect? And I get lost in coffee, bro. That's how bad it was. Right? And I walked up to David one Sunday evening.
Sure.
He was about to preach, I think, and I say to David, you can't do this to me. You threw me in the deep end. You never told me that this is what it's going to be like. And David laughed. And he said to me, David speaks and then he says his glasses. He
pushes them like
and he has this pastoral face that he puts on David, your brain is not here, but your face is here. And he says, oh, Malum, I'm very sorry. Hey, hallelujah. David, hallelujah. But Malum, I'm telling you. Marriage prep was like having a K53.
Come on, bro.
Now you're on the seat, you're driving on the highway.
Now you're in now.
You can't blame the K53. It was just describing how you change gears.
Exactly.
You're now sitting on the thing. And
Now you have to touch the gears.
You have to touch the gears, and you have to change the gears. And I think that was a helpful thing that David helped, and it removed a lot of pressure on my side, because I felt that I'll wake up being a better husband. I'll wake up tomorrow, get married today because I'm a pastor. I know the Bible. Like, I love Jesus, right? What more can I do? I love people.
What did you expect?
Oh my goodness me. My goodness me. So it was that realizing that actually it's like the wedding day does not actually bring an end to it's the beginning of a different level of conflict, a different level of growth and understanding each other and wanting to die to self. You know, when the Bible says die to yourself, the best place that you die is marriage,
bro. Yeah.
It's marriage, bro.
Yeah.
Because you realize it exposes you to all selfishness, bro. And like you realize how selfish you are.
If you fight with somebody now, at church, at work, in the streets, whatever, you can go home and recoup. Go into your shower, scream, bang doors, sit down, be frustrated. Now when that person is doing the same thing in the same room, in the same shower, because she fought with you and you fought with her.
And you have to be in the same bed.
And you have to be in the same bed. Now I can't run. You can't even go to the car and say, I'm going to be in the car because I'm frustrated. No.
No, you can't.
No, you have to fight right.
How do you come back?
So
for me, in all these things, I've had moments where I'm like, I'm going.
I'll
just go in the car.
But
I'm like, hey, if I leave now.
Where you going?
No.
And plus, where you going? Zim is far.
Yeah. I'm like, but when I come back,
what are you going to say?
It's going to be difficult. Where do I start? So, hey, I'll sit here. We'll figure it out. And it's so beautiful that as we sit through and we give each other time to reflect on what has happened. And sometimes you end up laughing. Like you end up laughing like, oh my goodness me. Oh, sorry, I didn't understand. Sometimes it's you speaking over each other and you're both talking about valid things. But because you're so engulfed in yourself, you know, I need to give the family the direction here. Because one of the pressures that marriage prep gives to people is that you have to be the head of the house. And it leaves you in abstract, because it's abstract. I believe so.
It is.
What I've read, just being a leader.
What does that
mean?
Right?
So you go there, you're not even clear what it means. And you don't want to drop the ball on your family. You want to be a leader. But you actually don't know what it means to be a leader. And I don't think...
And to your point, sorry to cut you off, but to your point, you got the K53. Now you're in a car. But when you were reading the K53 book, you had Ferrari in your mind. And then you get in this thing, and it's a Polo Vivo. And now you're like, why is this thing not moving as fast as I imagined it to be? Remember, you need to divorce your idea of whatever Ferrari you had or whatever SUV you had. Or it might be a truck.
Bro,
you were reading a K53 for code 8. Now this is a code 10.
With 16 gears.
It
starts moving properly when it's in the 6th gear.
But you don't know.
But the Vivo will be already on 160.
Exactly. But you don't know.
You don't know. It's shy.
And now you have to figure it out. And I think I was chatting to you sometime, and you were saying, even with that, what David was saying is, just figure out what your car is.
Yes, exactly.
Don't compare your car to your neighbor's car, right? So even us here as husbands, 2 husbands or 3, with one behind the camera, all of us have different cars. Right? And here, let me be clear. I'm not referring to our wives as cars. The marriage is the car. Not
it's an analogy. Don't cancel us, please.
Next thing.
We're not devaluing.
You called somebody's wife a truck. No. The marriage. The marriage, right? And so all of us have different cars here. And I, as much as I can, which we know, because we're drivers, once you get into your car, it takes you a while to acclimatize to the car. You fix the gears, you have to fix your seat, get used to the softness or the hardness of the clutch, etc., fixing your mirrors, blah, blah, blah. And that's just the beginning. Before you even get this thing on the road, right? And then you have to remember where your blind spots are, etc., etc. You have to get used to all of that, and then remembering that the person next to me in their car, they're having to do the same thing, but for their car, right? And it's not going to look the same,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
But there is a sense of responsibility that you spoke about as well. If marriage prep, especially for the husband, gives a weight, I don't think it's a bad weight. Because we have to, as husbands, take on the responsibility of leading and know that it's not going to be a job for Popeyes, right? If we are going to be husbands who are trying to know better so we can do better, it comes with understanding that weight and that responsibility, you know what I mean?
But you know what? What's on that? Like, just to piggyback on what you've just said, I think one of the things is that,
hey, sorry to interrupt your viewing. If you haven't subscribed, please do subscribe. If you haven't hit the notification bell, do that so that you're always updated on the episodes that we drop. What are we about here? We're about husbands who want to know better so that they can do better. And with that in mind, here's another husband coming up next week who gives us stuff to know better so that we can all do better. Right? Check it out.
And so if anyone is supposed to beg a zela, it's indoor.
Amen. Yeah.
If anyone's supposed to lead in begezeling, is indoor.
I think one of the things is that you are wired. We're living in such a world that say men are trash, or men there's no men, like a lot of things are said. The lack of good men here. I was actually driving with someone yesterday from the camp when the taxi, like in an Uber, some of the girls from the ministry that we're part of, and I was dropping them off to where we're going, and they're actually saying, Fundis, there are no good men out there.
Sheesh.
Immediately I said,
and they
but
say
what
that
about
to
me?
you. Yeah.
You get the point.
Sure.
I realized it took them time to acclimatize the fact that they might not be the kind of people that they're looking, but actually they are good men in the society. So I think one of the things that the pressure which is negative that comes with that is to say is you are told that a good leader does not do this.
Sure.
So you're working from the negative.
Yes.
So you're always you're trying to make it from the negative.
Trying to avoid.
So you're trying to pay back sins for other men that you don't even know that you've never seen.
Yes.
You've never been told just to be yourself.
Yeah.
That when you get married, you can be a good husband, and this is what a good husband can be: loving their wife,
100%.
caring for your wife, and this is what it looks like. But the noise of the society, and sometimes I feel like the church puts pressure on the men to say, hey, look at what happens in men of society and all this, and men feel they carry the pressure. Like, I think someone was preaching about the suicide rate of men in Joburg recently. It's high up and no one is talking about it.
Sure.
Right. So men are going through a lot.
Yeah, bro.
Like, and no one is speaking about it.
I saw a video this morning. This girl is like, what is it? What did she ask? Like, what's up with men, or is there something wrong with men?
Yeah.
And then the video cuts to this dude with a big beard and is like, well, men are always in. What's the song? I'm messing up this video. Anyway, I'll remember it and I'll tell you.
Yeah.
But it was around the lines of, like, there's nothing wrong with men, and then this dude responds that no, like every day we're struggling, right? And so he was playing on that song, every day I'm shuffling. So it's like every day we struggling, right? And that's his like and that video probably has like 1 million shares. So I'm like, 1 million people have shared this video. Yes, it might be funny, but I think the sentiment is true. Right? That there is a real pandemic when it comes to men's health, men's issues, etc., right? Sorry.
So which I think feeds into the idea why we need such platforms where we actually expose that actually there are good husbands out there, because the rest of the internet, most of the places you go to is trashing on man and making the belief that there is no good men out there. So good men, good young men who have the potential of getting married are stuck there because they're scared. I cannot match up to what the world wants me to be, and the world is pampering on the girl child. Not saying it's bad, but it's giving them the illusion that there is no good man out there.
Yeah, exactly.
So the good man is the guy who's rolling the wheels, who's the cash. That's the definition of a good husband who can buy them Gucci, you can take them to Dubai.
Sure.
Actually, but the good husband who wakes up every day, goes to work, makes sure that there's breakfast on the table, comes back to his wife every evening, spend time with his kids. They'll never make it on Instagram. Do you know that? They'll never. No one celebrate that.
Sure,
so that's why I think this is a very good platform to celebrate such.
No, totally, bro. And I think just to even get into that more, So yes, we're not denying that there's issues
Yes.
around men,
Yeah.
right? So men who perpetrate violence, men who who ill-treat women, men who proponents of violence, whatever the case is. Then there's fathers, right, who leave their children, who don't show up, who are not committed, etc. So we're not denying that there's any of that, but we are saying that in the midst of all of that, right, there's also other stories, right? And again, for me, that's why I'm very passionate about this project of building this book, that at least we'll have evidence of these guys, and it's not just, again, fictional characters that are somewhere. But speaking of the role of the husband, and I think this is probably a dope way to even speak about this, where I think we've neglected the role of the husband so much. And I think the role of the husband is actually so crucial in addressing the issues around manhood and fatherhood, right? Because, again, if we think about men, the men want to follow leaders, right? Could be a leader in corporate, could be a leader in sports, etc. But there's a very clear leader in society, and that is the husband, right? So he doesn't have to be the greatest sportsman, doesn't have to be a CEO, he doesn't have to be the greatest preacher, or whatever the case is, but he's a leader by being a husband. He's leading his wife, he's leading his family. And at least I know in African societies, we respect that, especially as men, right? And I remember saying to you the other day that if you are if you're not married, as a single man, and you want to go speak to the uncles who are married, they're going to make you feel that you're not married, right? I remember, in fact, there's a friend of mine who wasn't married, as a pastor, and he went to the hood. And the hood was just like, listen, we know that you're a pastor, but you're not married. Can
I tell you a story? Let me tell you a story. So it reminded me of, like, so I was part of this church at some point. So, like, I'm a young pastor there at the church. And so they started organizing camps. So there was a couples camp. They were going out. And then they said, no, you cannot go to the camp. And I'm saying, why? And they say, you don't have experience. You're not. And I'm like, but guys, that's unfair. You allow me to preach about heaven. I've never been to heaven. So why can I not talk to you about marriage? Because it's the same book. That is the same principle. But I just found it funny.
That's very true. So until he got married, they didn't respect him. Right?
That's true.
And so I'm saying, once you become a husband, there is a unique and a crucial position that you occupy that you will have influence over men. Right? But again, if you're a husband and you're present and you're at home, God blesses you with children, you will solve the issue of fatherlessness because you will be there at home and not just present, right? So the question we need to ask further is, you present doing what? Right? So you're not just a father who's in the house in jail, but there is a level at which you are a husband who is really trying hard to be faithful, to be present, to be discipling your children, to loving your wife, etc. And a father who does that, right, then leaves a good example to younger boys who will then later on become men. Right? So then we will solve the issues because we've raised them and discipled them from a young age as boys to then become men who will replicate the kind of men that we are speaking about now. But then they'll also be good examples to younger girls, right? Their daughters, who will then know the kind of men that they should be looking at, right? So I think we talk around, a lot of people talk around issues on manhood, and a lot of issues around fatherhood. But I think we're not talking enough about husbandhood. And I think husbandhood, in my opinion, and the belief of this podcast, is that if we elevate the value of husbandhood, it would really help in solving all of these other issues, right? And to your point, it will also help younger men who are feeling like, yo, man, there's no value in wanting to be a husband. I don't desire to be a husband because I can see how much this thing is devalued in society, because then I can still have sex with my girl without marrying her and committing. I can still get the benefits of marriage, or I can still be a father without being married, right? And so I'm saying, yo, we need to can that thing and actually prioritize. So women need to prioritize the level of commitment from their partners and say, we're actually not going to get any benefits if you don't commit to me and marry me, right? And I think that would raise the temperature for us to shed the spotlight again on what the husband is and the role that he plays in society. So I'm like, yo, man, That's needed.
Yeah,
That's
so
needed. Hard.
I think it's a very powerful point that you're making there,
Yeah.
because the world celebrate now. If you look in the corporate, in the entertainment, music, the people in the entertainment sector, the people that are celebrated as men are not those men that are married. These are men who have the masculine stature, who have this idea of like the present, like but they're not committed. They can be committed to making money, but they're not committed to the basics of life.
Sure.
And many people, those have become their role models. Sure. So many young men are said, I'm committed to make money. Yeah. Like I want to make money, right? I'll get married later. But I want to. So people think that if I can be in this space, I'm man enough.
Sure.
But actually not knowing that being a husband, God has called you and treat that as a calling, and you're committed, you're faithful, you're there, you're present through thick and thin. Sure. And I think saying a husband, because people want to run away from it because it comes with responsibility. Yeah. It comes with commitment. Yeah. It's not easy. No. It's difficult.
Yeah. I have to stand before God, before family, before society, and I'm publicly saying I'm making a commitment.
Yeah.
Right? And anyone can hold me accountable because I've made this commitment publicly. I'm not just inviting you to the wedding to have food, but I'm committing to this woman in front of you. Yes. And I'm saying, keep me accountable, right? Yeah. So it is. It's a major responsibility.
And I think the new measure of masculinity should be commitment. Like family commitment. Like if a man can't commit, then how can we? I know there's so many layers to that, but I think commitment has to come to that, because commitment says, like, you know what, through thick and thin, I'm here for you. Through thick and thin, I think the Bible says God so loved the world that he gave his son. So like, think of it, God committed himself to the world. So through thick and thin, it's unlovable. It's difficult. It's not easy. You put yourself as in God's shoes every day. There is someone who's praying, can you kill Black, God? He has been bad to me. You know? And Black is calling, he's praying, he's saying, God, protect me against my enemies. Being in God's shoes is hard.
Yeah, it's hard, bro.
But it sustains everything. And I think it's a higher calling, be a husband.
Yeah. But in closing, what's the one thing that you would want to give to a husband that is been a husband for however many years, months, weeks, days, hours, or a husband who, or a guy who's becoming a husband? You know, so we want husbands to know stuff so that they can do better. So that they can do better. So what's the one thing that you would want them to know that they can add on to their arsenal of how they can then do better?
I think one of the things that I've always I'm learning over the time to always remind myself, so maybe that's the only thing that comes to me quickly and immediately, is the fact that understanding that being a husband is not easy.
Sure.
It's hard. It's tough. It's difficult. But doesn't mean it's undoable.
Sure.
It's doable.
Sure.
It's very, very, very doable. Being a husband is a calling that we're invited by God to partake of.
Sure.
And the fact that if we understand that we're invited by God to be playing this role, that means we don't have to trust on our own energy and on love. So the first thing that I think we need to be always aware of is, where is our heart with Christ? It's easier to love our wives in the difficulties and the pressure of this world when we understand what Christ has done for us. And we're trying to incarnate that love of Christ to our wives. You know, the Bible says God loves so the world. But I don't think there's anything that was lovable in the world. Apart from that, it was God's creation. It was all rebellious and all these things. It was not listening. It was even planning and plotting to kill God, the Son of God, and all those things. But God even loved those people, the most difficult people to love. And that's the same level that the Bible calls husbands. Like, love your wife as Christ loved the church. There is a model that has been set for us. So until we understand,
perfect husband,
exactly. Until we understand what Christ did for us,
come on, bro,
it'll always be difficult, because we'll always be trying to manufacture the love of, like, we're trying to manufacture, and we will run out of it. Some author once wrote, says, we are not manufacturers of it, we are distributors of the love that comes from God.
Come on,
so
bro.
There's less pressure on the manufacturing. Why? Because God is the one that is manufacturing in our hearts. As we get closer to Jesus, He's manufacturing that love in our hearts so that we can pour it out. They say love that is more enjoyed is the love that is given away. So I think that's what I'm learning, and I'm always trying to remind myself when it's difficult, when it's hard, that yes, it's difficult in my own strength, but if I trust what God has called me to do, and that God is, for this season, this particular time, He has entrusted me with this, I'm going to carry it with His energy. So, yeah, that's all I can say. Yeah.
It's dope, man. Appreciate that. That's really good. Muruti, this is not the end.
Yes.
We'll definitely have you again. And shout outs to your wife for being gracious enough to allow us to speak about her story as well. Because this is also her story.
Yeah.
And shout outs to you, man.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna ask you if I can be on podcast the day after you release it on YouTube.
Yeah.
I'll hide the link. I'll make sure I'll go in and subscribe, unsubscribe. And then after, would you allow me? Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Here it is.
I'm just joking. She knows I'm here.
That's great, bro. Appreciate her for that. And I think that's another thing that makes us husbands who can do better. Yeah. That we always acknowledge the great gifts our wives are, and that we are not husbands apart from them.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
If she said no to you,
yep,
you're just a guy.
Yep.
Yes, God calls you to be a husband, but you're a husband in relation to your wife, man.
Yep.
And so shout outs to our wives, shout outs to your wife, right?
Yeah, thanks, bro.
Yeah, no, appreciate that. Guys, that's been it. We hope that you've enjoyed this, and this is That Husband Podcast, where husbands try to know better so that we can do better. And I've been your host, Black Newborn. Hopefully we'll see you again next week. Please share this content with people, like, subscribe, and make sure that people know about this. Right? Yep. We want to make sure that there's more husbands that we can champion and put in this book to also let other husbands in the future know that it's not just fictional characters, but there's real husbands who are doing this, right? So with that said, we want to thank you so much. From That Husband Podcast, we signing out, right? Peace!
Mentally, psychologically, emotionally, we're not the same. Physically, we're not the same.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that for me is probably the biggest challenge with marriage, is adjusting to my wife's adjustments.
Sure.